living situation. So we got a permit for that. We also got another permit to make improvements to the fireplace. The fireplace needs some things done to it as well. So we did get building permits from the previous building inspector. Like I said, it's been there it's been on the property for over 100 years.
So improvements like that, I would assume are
Well,
okay
if he will do the improvement, but due to the inability of the town, based on the RSA, to grant the permit, because I will always revert back to planning to have a better understanding of the legals of the land use. And based on the legality of the land use, I don't have authority. I don't have jurisdiction over that.
okay.
So just by statute or legislature, it is already there, a block for me to make a determination.
Okay. So,
And I'm presuming, I'm sorry.
so what you're saying is that whoever owns it, in this case, this gentleman at this time, can continue using it as it was, but really can't do improvements to it.
An improvement of the nature of what is being
yes,
proposed.
of the nature that's being requested.
It's seasonal, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, listed as a camp. You know, and one of the sticking points, or one of the things that is driving this one, you know, we wanted to turn it year round, but because of the house design that we needed to do, the required setbacks for shoreland and for septic design, we purchased some additional land so that we could have that done, and then we got a, what do you call it?
A lot line adjustment.
Lot line adjustment. So we did a lot line adjustment.
Which was also the key point for me to reaching out to Glenn, because one thing is to have a lot of record that we will have to entertain, being a lot of record that was improved as a lot of record, but by means of line adjustment, now it's a new lot of record that is non-conforming.
Yeah, so, and
So made a bad situation worse?
yeah,
Yes.
because we hired Dennis Quintel, his company, to do the surveying and the septic design. Well, I understand is one of the town engineers.
He is the town engineer.
Yeah, okay. So we used the town engineer, you know, knowing this is our path forward to be able to do this. So we got the lot line adjustment. No one brought up the fact that there's going to be issues. The intent was always to have it. The intent of the lot line adjustment was to make it, you know, take down the existing structure and put in a new structure to code that could be a year-round residence with no pushback at that time or anywhere since we've done this. We made a reasonable, you know, a decent investment with the shoreline permit, the septic design, the engineering, the purchase of the land. We've actually been working on this for 2 years.
And Glenn, the lot line adjustment went through planning board and got the approval.
The lot line adjustment is only a mitigation of the land size. So from the legal standpoint of view, there is no recourse for an individual to be prevented to adjusting the size of their land when needs be. However, development and improvement of the land with the conditions that are existing, that were pre-existing of the land. There was a little bit of not too much advice to Mr. McDonough on the end of what this will cost to him, as far as the implications of. One thing is to have a lot of record that is non-conforming and then develop from there. Another thing is to do a line adjustment. Now it's not a lot of record. It doesn't have the dimensions that preceded the record. Now we have a new lot that is in the record that is non-conforming to the ordinance, which was the case that was created, which again just is a mix of many things. And again, when I received the permit, I said, well, everything seems to be right, but I still need to route it through planning and land use, because there is many things going on in here that is pertaining to the legal use of the land. And that's when Glenn brought out the RSA, which is why we're here today. Because other than that, the new improvement will meet certain aspect of the ordinance. It's just the RSA.
The easement.
Microphone.
Mine wasn't working. The easement that's there now, has that been on there a long time? Is there a particular, was there a particular?
It's existed for a very long time.
Yes.
Yeah, but we don't know what.
Probably since the first time somebody asked to put a camp on that property.
It's probably an easement through the Cheney family, because that was all Cheney property.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that, I mean, that was always been Cheney property. I mean, it's probably like a 500 square foot building we're talking about down there. That was a camp.
And if you look at the tax map, the way it's set up, there's our property, there's another one, going farther up Ledge Road, that's, has lot lines, and then everything else is one big tract of land. So they did at some point divide the two. I'm not sure if the camp next to ours, which is called Scientist Camp, I'm not sure if that is actually on Ledge Road or not, or if that also has that, I'm not sure.
So the right-of-way easement that provides access is from Ledge Road,
Correct.
which is a
Private road.
private road.
And it's an
Part
easement to
of,
the,
part of our deed is also, we have to, part of our deed, when we purchase it, we actually have, they have an easement to access the dam, because we're right at the dam. So part of our, we have to have supply, access if they need to work on it, which, may be happening soon.
Is there a possibility that through some land purchase or another adjustment of some kind that easement could be converted to a driveway?
A driveway with no associated frontage would be the same as a,
Well, the driveway would be on Ledge Road.
There's no frontage, got it.
still no frontage.
So it's a landlocked piece,
Yes.
accessed by an easement.
Yes.
Access by an easement for the purposes of cap in 1929.
Purposes of accessing the camp, right?
Which is seasonal.
Speak with,
I think the board should speak with our town engineer on this issue, because he's been in front of the board many a times. This is all Robert Griffin's property, and who's the heir to Bud Cheney and Forrest Griffin. So I think he's been down there multiple times dissecting this every which way you can ever imagine. And this was one of the pieces that was cut off of that whole compound. He put a couple lots out on the road that we dealt with, and this is one of those. And I think we could probably get some history with Dennis.
but I think we're really faced with a legal issue here, not
Well, that's
not a civil engineering issue.
Yes.
no, I understand that, but
I mean, granted, if we wanted more history, we could probably get it from Dennis, but, I mean, I think the facts are pretty clear. And it's not a happy situation.
No, it's not a happy situation.
No.
I have to agree with my colleague, we should go to legal. I do agree with Mr. Koppelman, I do think it needs to go to legal counsel, because I hate to say this, but the fact that Dennis Quintel worked on that property would give you, the landowner, some sense that it would be okay. And that doesn't mean that's what Dennis said, I'm not implying that at all, but I could understand from your position that's implied, but I don't know that we can do anything without a legal ruling on this.
I mean,
Because you have no frontage, that's the problem.
Right.
You can repair the camp all you want, but you can't make it a year-round home at this point.
I mean, without the benefit of having some legal guidance on this, if I was forced to make a decision tonight, I'd have to agree with our town planner and building inspector that this is not something that we can approve. But if we want to investigate it further, then legal counsel would be the right way to go. We
And
might
I
end up
agree
in the
with you.
same, we might
We
end up
might
in the same place.
I agree. I think in fairness to Mr. McDonough, I think that's the right way to go, because let's find what the legal beavers say to us and go from there. I'm sure it's a challenge for you, and I appreciate all the effort you've put into getting to this point. But it's a very unusual situation, and we don't really know how to proceed and still protect the town's rights and inherently protect yours as well.
Right, I understand that. So will the select board be presenting this to the town council to review to see if there's a?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's our next step.
Okay.
Well, that's what I would recommend, and it's not to discount the advice we've just been given by our town planner and our building inspector.
That's
because,
correct.
I
They don't have a choice.
I'm believing that, they've given us the correct information, and that's probably where we're gonna end up. But especially because of the investment by the
Mr.
McDonough's
McDonough's, yeah.
and some of the expectations that have been happening all along here, I think we owe it to everyone to do this final double check before we make a decision.
And I concur with that.
Unfortunately, if someone had said, 2 years ago that, no, it's landlocked, you can't do this, and
Well,
we would have kept
Kingston's,
it as a camp. But,
yeah, I hate to tell you this, but Kingston is finally coming out of the dark ages and how we used to do things. And we're trying to do it right. And with the help of Mr. Avia and Mr. Green, we're doing that. But we've come up with some awkward situation. Yours is not the only one that's been awkward and uncomfortable for
Right,
both
and it's
sides.
probably not the only one in the state, so.
Oh, I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's not. I'll have Susan contact you. We'll send it to attorneys first and get a ruling or a reading on it.
I'd like to do it by motion, just so we've got it officially
Sure,
in the record.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
so I'll move that the select board seek town council advice and guidance on what we've been presented tonight with regard to the property at 5 Ledge Road.
Second.
Okay, is there further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. It's unanimous vote, and we will be in touch with you when we have an answer, and we'll meet again here.
Okay.
And go forward. We'll see what happens.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McDonough. Mr. Greenwood, Mr. Avia?
Can I ask one thing?
Sure. You
I'm
can
not
ask
sure the
two.
process to do this. It has nothing to do with you. Is there a way that we can get our assessors to do town-wide review for us for all properties that are indicated as seasonal or camp or fall under a certain dollar value that indicates that they're a camp and not a home? Because I think we need to have a baseline
Yeah,
for
agreed.
what we have out there. And Pedro and I
Yes.
talked about this. I think we need to look at all of those properties and have an understanding of exactly what's out there, because we're going to see this. The values of housing are so high, and I don't see them coming down, that all we're going to have is a series of dashed hopes if we don't have a better handle and process for dealing with these things.
And just to elaborate further on the comments of Glenn, one of the things is that we're seeing a high volume of interest on the conversion of seasonal to year-round. The problem with those properties is that most of them are mostly, you can say, they're in a cluster type of development.
Right, you'd have to.
And then we have ground resources that we need to protect, because one thing is to use something as a season. The other thing is to have a year-round usage of that, and how that will impact adversely or natural resources here in the town that we depend on. So that's something that definitely I've been talking with Glenn. Sorry, Mr. McDonough, I know you are in this process, but it's been something that is concerning. In this case, Mr. McDonough actually doesn't apply because he has plenty of land, but there are others that are close to the ponds and great ponds areas that are very concerning.
Well,
what's
this is the
going on.
time, yeah, this is the time here to do that. We need to have an idea what it would cost, even if we break it up over 2 years' time, but with budget season in full force.
Oh, I think the very first step is let's get a handle on what we're talking about.
Right, I agree, but,
I would hope that our assessors, they've now been dealing with our properties for a year and a half, 2 years?
oh, so you think the current ones, based on what they know now about Kingston, they should be able to pull that data?
They should be able to run some sort of query, depending upon the
Okay.
way properties are described, that can give us some sort of order of magnitude about what we're talking about.
Can we authorize Mr. Greenwood to consult with them?
My next question was gonna be, I'm never here when the assessor's here.
Oh, I see, I got you. Oh, Pedro, well,
Yes, well.
you're here.
Most definitely. And
They're here on
then,
Wednesday.
and then on that note, we have actually 3 applications that are on hold pending a resolution on this matter.
Interesting.
So it's moving at a rapid pace. And again, for me, it's the concern of this type of developments, where they're located and the limited amount of land they have to allocate for well and septic system that comply with our distances. And in the areas of the great ponds and the little ponds, it seems to be a more recurrent type of request. So it is time is of the essence on these matters. Like I said, currently there are 3 applications that are requesting to do the changes to a year-round utilization of the property. But they cannot even meet on those pieces of land the setbacks. Nevertheless, the separation radius for protective wells and septic distances.
Well, I'll ask for a motion from my colleagues to authorize Pedro to move forward with a discussion with the assessor to see if we can compile that list and look at the magnitude of the problem in front of us.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, unanimous. Something else for
Thank
you
you,
to
thank
do.
you very much. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. Okay, the next appointment we have is with the Museum Committee. I know Miss Flanders McDougal is here. I don't know who else wants to speak with her. Oh, God, of course. Okay, when you speak, please give your name and address, please.
Jeff Flanders, McDougal, Main Street, Kingston. First of all, I want to say I am one of the negatives. I was not at the meeting that was cited in the September 9th Board of Selectmen meeting. However, I had met with Glenn prior to that, and I had voiced some concerns because I was wearing my museum hat.
Can we just do a quick timeout?
Sure.
And bring everyone up to speed on what we're referring to?
No one at home knows what you're talking
Oh,
about.
okay, I'm sorry.
This relates to
Thank you.
the investigation that the select board was doing about the possible use of some of the land that the Grace Daily building used to be on to create a volunteer memorial. And so that's what the discussions were, and that's what now this is what you're referring to. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So anyways, on Saturdays when the museum is open, we bring the carriages out, and we've traditionally put them on the lawn on the west side, so they're facing Main Street. And the reason why they're on the lawn is because if they're on the tar, there's 2 issues. One, it's not even, and the other thing is cars come through there. We don't want any of the carriages damaged by a car. Yes, some of them come very quickly. And like, oh, there's a carriage. So that's why we've been putting the carriages there. And we haven't put them on the other side towards Elaine's house because there's a gully there. So it's not a stable place to put the carriages. So my viewpoint was, if we have a memorial there, I didn't want it something tall that was going to block the carriages or the barn. So I'm a guilty party.
Listen, I'm the second guilty
Okay.
party. I'm Leslie Hume.
Thank you.
And I live at 21 New Boston Road here in Kingston. I was the naysayer, I guess, at the meeting, and I'll put it down to having a bad day. I did not mean to convey a degree of negativeness that apparently was delivered. We are all volunteers, and we appreciate the town making an effort to acknowledge the contributions that volunteers make to Kingston, because I think we feel as though we provide a valuable volunteer service to Kingston, and many of our friends do in other capacities. So I apologize for conveying a negative outlook about the whole thing. We are in favor of it. I think we do share concerns. There's space there. I think something very nice can be done in that space. We would just like to have some space preserved for the museum's use.
If you would have let us know, the board, how many days a year have you actually rolled all those carriages out and put them on the lawn for public viewing?
Well, we haven't this year because the barn, they were in a storage container and.
Okay, so last year, well, so
Typically,
about
it's
last year,
It's about 8 times a year.
8 times a year?
Right. And some of us have talked amongst ourselves, and we don't have an issue with something there that's low, like a rock garden, a bench. But I think we had to massage the idea ourselves, that Jeff shouldn't have been so quick to judge. He should have taken it in and then listened to it, because afterwards I thought, okay, I'm talking with Laurie, and she was like, well, that this is the hub of the town hall. And so then I'm thinking, okay, so if somebody comes to town hall and they might have a family member, someone else in the vehicle with them, and the person might not want to go into town hall, but they might want to sit out on a bench there and look at the memorial. They might want to walk over and see what the barn is. We could have signage there that explains when the barn was built, that we store carriages in there. So it could be something that enhances the barn.
Well, and to that point, I'm not trying to interrupt your
No,
flow
no,
here,
that's
but,
fine.
the whole concept of providing information at that site, in addition to having a memorial, was something that the Heritage Commission was very interested in.
Right, and Laurie had explained that to me.
That it could provide an opportunity for all kinds of wayfinding and directional information, and maybe not handouts necessarily, but certain information to get people connected to a website or through a QR code or something. I mean, there are ways to do that stuff, but so it was fully recognized that to do stuff like that and to be directing people to some of these other opportunities around in the town would be another good piece of this process and piece of this whatever we do there.
Right, and I think especially now where we have no newspaper and we're not going to have a newspaper. The current younger people are not interested in reading a newspaper. They're all on their phones, so QR codes or anything that they can get on their phone, that's how we have to live. Some of us older ones aren't as adapt to that, but I guess we need to get adapt to it because that's the new wave.
I'm Kathy Clark Chase. I live in Hollis, 11 Snow Lane. I'm a longtime Kingstonian at heart. I grew up here, and this is my hometown, and I've been on the town committee for over 20 years. And my opinion is, first, the green that's parallel to the doors of the carriage barn, the Grace Daly barn, should remain open for 2 reasons. One, it's a nice stretch of green, and it complements the town hall. I think to have something there, which I don't think is what the proposal is actually, would be a distraction to the town hall, let alone the museum complex. So I visualize, I think what you said earlier, Glenn, that if there is a memorial garden, that it be on the west side of the L and be where the Grace Daly barn used to be located. Yeah, the house, yes, thank you. And the barn is still there for
It
now.
better stay there, it's pretty sturdy now.
And that it be professionally designed and meticulously maintained, because otherwise I think it will look messy, especially in the off-seasons, and be a distraction to the buildings. And I, too, we talked about this, that I visualize a rock garden of some type, perhaps with a walkway, not bricks, but what's the other term, the cement, the pavers, perhaps there could be names in the pavers.
Something low maintenance.
And perhaps it could just circle around towards the door on this side and then circle down towards the gully. And if some people advocate having a pollinator garden, if you have a pollinator garden, there's more flowers, it's more of a flower look, that could be on the other side, near the gully, near the stump. I think it could be quite attractive. It's really nice designed. And as far as the kiosk, again, in my opinion, something simple, maybe a memorial pole or a small kiosk with a place for brochures, you know, well protected from the environment. And yes, a QR code, because the young crowd, you know, they don't go to paper anymore, right? The next generation below us go to the QR code.
I think you have a bunch of volunteers to help you in this.
Well, and again, I don't want to be stopping your conversation
Yeah,
here, but I mean, these are all things that would have been and ultimately will be discussed, and you know, any conversations that took place up to this point were very, very preliminary, and you know, without a whole lot of background into it. But the ultimate plan was to try to get some folks involved. You folks certainly would be a part of that process. I had reached out to Dr. Ambrose at the high school to see if maybe we could get some young folks involved in this. You know, again, try to bring some young people into some of our town processes and into our volunteer work. So, I mean, yes, all of that, everything you've said up to this point is valid and was where we were sort of leading up to get there. But when the early discussions ended up with a lot of negative, or let's say not constructive, positive comments, I, for one, have lots of things to be doing on this board, and that was one of the things that I had put on my list because I was interested in helping out with it. But it's not the kind of thing that I'm willing to butt my head against the wall because there's other stuff that needs to get done. So, am I still interested in it? Yes. And do I still plan on working on it? Yes.
Thank you.
So it's not a dead issue by any means, but it's certainly at the moment on a lower priority, and but it's good to know that there would be some assistance from you folks here. And while you're thinking about these things, if you happen to know a landscape architect who might be willing to do some pro bono work for the town, that would be really helpful.
That's it, yeah.
I have a question. I'm Ruth Albert, longtime Kingstonian. We have to be careful that we have people to take proper care of it too, because I've seen other places that started this kind of a thing, and then all the people that were supposed to keep it up and looking nice have kind of gone by the wayside, and then it ends up just being kind of messy and stuff. So, just throwing that out there.
Well, thank you all for coming in. I don't know if you want to add anything else. We appreciate you coming to talk to us about it, and we look forward to working together in the future
Thank you, and
project.
if I didn't apologize before, I do apologize.
You did.
for my
You did.
You
previous
did.
behavior.
You did.
It's all good.
I appreciate you all coming in and talking to us.
Yes, definitely.
And rest assured that once I pick up the mantle again, I'll reach back out to you, and we can start over again with that process.
Clean slate.
I mean, there should be room for what we want and what you want.
Well, there is. And that's why the interactive process was gonna lead to that, what the ultimate thing looks like and what it ends up to be, but I was not hearing constructive feedback on having that discussion to get to that point, so. But we'll get there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any public comment at this time? No, not yet. Okay, then we'll go on to liaison reports, and I'll start with Laurie Schwett.
So the HCC meeting was on 8 October. In collaboration with the library and the Heritage.
We can hear you. Thank you.
They're working on the celebration for the cemetery. So that's going to be May 31st of 2025. And their preliminary discussion of having a celebration committee, and they don't know what that looks like yet. So having a party, right? So stay tuned for more information on that. Also, warrant articles. Do we have a date of when they're due?
We do have a date.
For select board warrant articles?
HDC's thinking about doing, they're reviewing an ordinance, and they're just, for multifamily houses, right, in the historic district, so.
That's zoning.
They have to go through zoning.
Right, so, I mean, we'd have to back up, so we don't know what that date is.
It's coming.
Well, I can tell you that zoning articles typically go through their first, the state law doesn't want zoning change proposals before, I believe, earlier than 120 days before town meeting. So that usually means mid to late November.
Right, okay.
To hold a public hearing. And that then leaves plenty of time in later November or even December or early January to have a second public hearing if it's required.
Okay.
So that's the time. That's the time.
Okay.
And if it's a citizen's petition article, but that's not what you're talking about. Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah. For the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee, yard waste is this weekend on Saturday, so you can bring your brush and other yard waste. There's no fee. So they're gonna compost what they can, and I think we talked about separating invasives so that we don't compost them and then spread the invasives through that. And the last thing that I was asked to pass on, this is in regards to the Center for Occupational Employee Health closing at the hospital. This is for DPW. So we've utilized them in the past for physicals, for workplace injury, for drug testing. So the admin assistant at Public Works has been in contact with them, trying to get resources and other places to go. So for drug testing, it looks like they're recommending a Southern New Hampshire drug testing company. For physicals, there's Lisa's still doing research. And then for job injuries, the center's saying they're still gonna see them at the hospital. So I don't know if the finance director has heard any more on what we're doing there.
Well, first of all, why wouldn't our department heads be working together on this? Because it's not a unique problem just to DPW. I think this would be a good topic for discussion at next Monday's department head meeting, because it's not just the DPW that's going to have issues about physicals or workers' comp or places for employees to go.
Right, and then that's why I'm raising it, because
Yeah, and then it should go to...
It's an issue that needs to be resolved sooner rather than later, so this could be the first discussion for that.
Yeah, and department head meeting would be the appropriate place to bring that up and make our colleagues aware that this is going on. Go ahead, Paula.
So we've been using the same for the fire department, police, and DPW. And I've been working with the Exeter Hospital, that group. And Graham has been, the fire chief has been looking into companies. We've been looking into other places and getting recommendations on what other towns are using. So
Okay.
it's just the process of just finding a new place that can accommodate everybody.
All right. I still think it should be discussed as a group next
Oh,
Monday.
I don't disagree,
Okay.
because it sounds like we're already cross-purposing here with the fire and,
We should be, yeah, exactly, yeah.
no, it sounds like we're duplicating efforts, so you're right, so it should be a concerted effort to make
Right.
sure, yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We conserve our time.
right. All right, so we'll bring it up again at the department head meeting. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Glenn?
Okay. The Kingston Lake Association, if you recall, had been before us asking if we, the select board, could cover the cost of printing either some or all of the watershed, the lake management plan that was done recently under a grant.
Yeah.
And through some conversation with the Lake Association and with the consultant, we determined that, in fact, the consultant, even though there wasn't grant money specifically to cover printing costs, was willing to cover half of it. And then upon further investigation, the consultant was able to find a pretty low-cost way to do it, and they were willing to cover the entire cost. So the net is that the town does not need to pay for any of that. The consultant is going to take care of doing it. And there will be, I believe, 4 copies printed.
Oh, great.
So, off the list, done.
That's nice for a change.
It is, it is. And it took a couple of sessions of emails and asking some questions, but it worked out. The recreation, I'm getting there, but the recreation search is ongoing. Interviews were done. I think any further discussion on that we should do under non-public.
Okay.
The next item is the Energy Committee met last week. And if I say anything inappropriate, Rick is here as the chair. He can correct me, and Lori is my alternate, and she was there at that meeting. So we spent most of the meeting discussing, it was a follow-on discussion to whether or not the Energy Committee was going to recommend that the town participate in Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, which would make the town a member of that group, and it acts as an electricity aggregator and provides electricity to residents at what has been, over the last few years, a lower rate than what they would get through their regular utility bills. So, the town, for our municipal uses, participates in an electricity aggregation program through the Rockingham Planning Commission.
Right.
So we already do that. This would give the opportunity for residents and at least some businesses, maybe not all, but some, the opportunity to participate in an aggregation program and get lower electric rates on their bills. So it's an opportunity to offer to our residents a little bit of cost savings on their utility bill. So the next step would be, and this was recommended by, the Energy Committee took a vote to recommend to the Select Board that the Select Board consider joining the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, and with the first step being to have a gentleman from that group come and present to us at a meeting probably in November. I think we were looking at possibly the 18th. at which point then the board could make its decision of whether to move forward or not. And what happens after that is that if the board chose to participate, it would require 2 public hearings and then a warrant article on the March ballot, because the voters are the ones who ultimately decide whether or not to move forward with this.
Is it a voluntary participation
You mean,
by the residents?
the way it's structured is that if the town votes it in, then residents are automatically enrolled in it unless they opt out of it. And there's letters that are sent to people explaining that this is how it happens, and if you want out, you can be out.
Rick, you want to speak to this? I mean, that's a big leap, if you want to know the truth.
A couple of, the bottom line here is that since there are now 60 towns, a third of the population of Hampshire is involved with it. 2 counties have opted to do this. They're the second largest provider of electricity now in the state. They buy on the spot market so they can buy cheaper. They're a nonprofit, so they don't have shareholders that they have to pay dividends to, so they can actually run a leaner ship than Unitil can, and Unitil's actually been very supportive of it. So it literally becomes our power company. 4 times they have, the 4 different 6-month periods that they've done, each time they've come in less money per kilowatt. The electric company still provides the wires, the electric company still sends you the bill. So there's not a lot of, there's really virtually no change, except for there's going to be less of a fee. Anybody, the town, if the town feels that they can get a better deal with Rockingham Planning, they just, at first, they wouldn't even be part of it. The school district, because they have an aggregation plan, if they wanted to, they could. The schools in Kingston, but not Newton, where the meters are, dictates, they could be part of it if they want to, but normally they wouldn't. Anybody that has solar panels on their house is not part of it, okay, because they can't deal with net metering. So for the average person, it's going to lower the bill maybe $20, $30 a month, and that's why, like I say, there's been 60 towns so far, and Exeter, Kensington, Epping, I mean, just just all over the state really have been to it. And when they come down from, what they're going to do is answer questions. They'll present and answer questions that you might have as a board, and also some of the public members had some questions that we're going to present to them so that they can cover those at the public. And then, of course, it'd be the 2 public hearings after that. Again, it'd be presentations by them and by the Energy Committee as to whether or not this is a good thing for Kingston. And then ultimately the people would vote on it. If they think it's a great idea, they'll do it. If they don't, they won't. So.
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you, Rick.
So there's really no action for us to take except if the board is in favor of having someone from the coalition to make a presentation to us.
I think that would be advisable.
Yes.
Everyone okay?
At the very least, we should hear the presentation, yes.
So I'll make that motion then.
Okay.
That we do that, bring them in on November 18th.
Sure.
And have them work with Susan to schedule the time, and or however that works.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Second.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We'll have them come in and talk to us.
And one more thing.
Okay.
This one relates to Paula. I was going to do this in non-public, but I understand that you have asked for this to be done in public session. You're welcome to join us if
Yep, absolutely.
if you like. And I had, I guess I was made aware that, at our last meeting, there was some discussion and there were some targets set for certain tasks to get done. And the first one was to document in writing the hiring process so that we had it in writing. And the deadline for that was 10/14, and it didn't happen. It wasn't, that time frame wasn't met. And I know that you spoke with the chair, who's also your liaison, and you were told that due to extenuating circumstances and a lot of other activity going on, and the fact that jury duty was also happening, that that it was okay for that date to pass and that it would be done at a later date. And I understand all that. My concern to the board was that, and to our chair, in deference to our chair, that it was, that was a decision by the board. Those dates were set by the board, and I would have hoped that it would have been brought to the whole board as opposed to it being done as a one-person decision between you and her. So, so that's it, really.
And when Glenn brought that to my attention, I said he was right. I should have notified the full board. I made the decision because we were under the deadline. Paula was under the deadline. We had quarterly reports, state reports, things that needed to be done in order to prepare for setting the tax rate. All those were in sequence, and to me, that was the priority. I apologize to my colleagues for not reaching out and letting you know I made that executive decision, if you will. Because you're right, Glenn, it was made, the decision was made by the board, and I accede to that. I always prefer to have a group discussion and a group decision. It makes it cleaner going forward. But it wasn't Mrs. Mahoney's fault that she let that go. That was more on my initiative.
So that was it. I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that discussion, and Ellie and I had talked about it. We had a phone conversation, so she was certainly aware of you know, where I was coming from on that. So, thank you. And that's the end of my list. Thank you.
Has a new deadline been created?
No, you have not done anything, but a new deadline is yet. We have a few other things to talk about too.
Okay.
Downstairs and setting up that, we got a bunch of things going on.
Okay.
So, it's not going away.
Yeah.
We have to do it, if there's no question
No,
about
yeah.
Okay, I've got a couple of things. The planning board is looking at a few ordinance changes, not many, thank goodness. Mainly with respect to the height of buildings or the distance between buildings in age-restricted housing. And there's one for there's several articles, all related, and they've met with the fire chief. Some buildings have 60 feet between them, some have 45, some have 80.
So they want to make it standard?
Standard, correct. So I believe it's going to be 45 feet between. So that's what's being proposed there. And you'll still have hearings and all that other good stuff coming down the pike. And I also had a call this afternoon from John Pramberg, who is the trustee of the trust funds. And he's asking for permission to talk to town council about an interesting conundrum. Because a number of years ago, I'm going to say about 50, the Kingston Select Board voted to merge the cemetery trustees with the trustees of the trust funds. A lot of the paperwork is the same, similar, but a couple of the members of that committee, of the trustees committee, had gone to a training session this fall, and the issue was raised whether this was appropriate to have the two different boards, or have one board do it, even though it was voted by a previous select board. The RSA, subsequent to the board meeting, a ruling on that 50 years ago, the RSAs have been updated, which precludes the two trustee sets to be combined. They could be the same people, but you have to be elected, yes. And so to clarify that, it may only be a matter of appropriate paperwork or duplicate minutes, subsequent minutes. You know, we have the trustees of the trust funds meet first, and then the cemetery trustees meet next. But they wanted clarification and asked for permission to check with town council to get a ruling on that. Any objection?
No objection.
Okay, can we have a motion then? In a second? Second. All right, further discussion? And I'll call Mr. Pramberg in the morning and let him know that. And he did ask me also if we had a liaison to the trustees of the trust funds, and we do not. I checked the list, and there was no one on there, so something to consider going forward. And,
Do you want to do the vote on that?
oh, I'm sorry, yes, I do. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Yeah, thank you.
So Ellie, the only thing about the liaison thing, they meet same time we do. So
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
right. So it'd be really, because they have a meeting tonight, so it'd be really hard for a liaison.
Yeah,
to be
it's
able
not
to-
gonna work.
That's probably why there hasn't been one.
That's probably why they haven't.
Yeah, exactly. That's
So
what I
they have
figured.
to change their meeting.
Right, if they thought that it was important to have a select board liaison, maybe they could change their meeting time.
Right, or if there was something really urgent that they needed to talk to someone about, they could. That was the other thing. Because they pretty much are regulated by statute anyways,
Well, that's true, the liaison doesn't necessarily have to attend meetings, but can be there as
as a conduit.
conduit.
Yep, yep. Okay, Chuck,
I don't have much. The only thing is the Budget Committee continues to work on the budget. There's another meeting this one. This Wednesday. Next Wednesday, right? Next Wednesday. And the only other thing, Tammy is working, getting ready for the elections. So hopefully she is anyway. That's all I have.
no doubt about it. Okay, Peter?
Okay, so I am the liaison to both the police department and the building department. And both will be discussed tonight in non-public, so I'm doing a heck of a job. But I did take it upon myself, I have reached out, I was looking through my calendar, today's the 21st, and I did reach out to Tom, who is working as the intern, highway department. Yeah, just to see how that's kind of going, because it's less than 2 weeks away that he's gonna be at November 1st. And he assured that everything is going absolutely marvelous, he gets everybody's helping along, better than expected, may you say. He's getting some good directions and good pointers, and he has not any issues. Yeah, things are working out very good. So, that's it.
Okay. Mrs. Baker, would you come forward to talk about the poll books?
Thank you. I want to talk about tabulators and poll books.
Okay.
The tabulators are the machines that you put the ballot in to count it. The poll books are when you're checking in, it's done electronically. So the tabulators, I have $14,000 in my budget that I need to encumber this year so that we can purchase the tabulators for the March election. I talked with the attorney for the Secretary of State's office today. It can either be done by town vote, which I really prefer not to because that means we're waiting another whole year, or the selectmen can vote to use these tabulators in a duly noticed meeting, and then we would take the minutes and send that along with a letter to the Secretary of State's office.
Okay, so you would like a motion from this board to approve the use of the tabulators?
Yep, it's
At the March town meeting,
and for the
and thereafter.
Right.
So the tabulators are a replacement for what we currently
Right. The
use,
current.
what we put the paper ballots
Right.
into.
Correct. The AccuVote machines are no longer supported, and we have been told we have the choice of two. One is made by Voting Works, and one is made by LHS, which is the same manufacturer that makes the ones that we currently use. I have been to several different displays and demonstration. The Voting Works machine has gotten conditional approval, and some towns are already using them, the Voting Works machine. LHS has not even gotten conditional approval. So I want to use the Voting Works, and when it prints out a piece of paper like this with all your numbers instead of a tape that's 8 miles long, it's pretty impressive.
And that's the company that makes the current?
No.
No, it's a different company.
It's a different company.
Different one.
Yep,
a different one was approved by the state.
Yes,
LHS is no longer being approved.
right. Well, LHS
Going-
has a
going forward.
machine, they're working on conditional approval, but they haven't gotten it yet. So no towns are using the new LHS machine.
Okay,
But Voting Works is in several towns.
okay.
So, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna, so to switch to these, you said we either have to go to town vote, or we, the board, can, public notice that we agreed to that, and then you can send that off as approval.
Correct.
Okay.
Woodstock just did it recently, and I have a copy of their letter to the Secretary of State and a copy of their minutes.
Yep,
So-
I absolutely go forward with that. Yeah, but we'll take a motion shortly.
Right. Have you spoken with towns that are you said some have started using the machine?
Yep, and there are no problems, no one's had any issues. Some of the things that we'll do is, when we have two machines, you can take the thumb drives out and put them into, they give you a laptop with it, and it will add those two machines together, and so you get one piece of paper with the totals. You can see if it wrote, when you do a write-in, you can see it on the laptop, and you type it in, and then it prints out a whole list of all the writings.
Might save about 5 hours.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty, and so they'll be doing lots of training in the new year, and they'll show you what it does. It's like, I went over to Brentwood again and looked at it again last week, and.
So you have to encumber that money so we can, is that?
Correct, because we don't, he's getting me an invoice right now, but we're not gonna get it this year.
In time for,
Right,
yeah, for,
okay. All right.
But the vote that we need here is to authorize the use of those machines,
beginning with the March
beginning with the March.
2025 elections,
Right.
town elections, and going forward. Okay, ready? Motion?
Well, I'll make that motion.
Okay, in a second? Second. Just further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's a unanimous vote.
Okay, perfect. So now, the poll book.
So before you go to the next thing, easy. The encumbering of money will happen when we do encumbrances at
the end
that
of the
appropriate time.
Yep, he thought I would get an invoice tonight before the meeting, but I'm sure I'll get it tomorrow, and I will make sure that Paula gets it, so that it will be on the list of encumbrance. Okay?
What was the name of the voting?
Voting Works, and I have, if you want to see any kind of paper there, their big thing is everything is open source, so you can buy the thumb drives on Amazon, you can buy the paper on Amazon, everything, so that's their big claim to fame.
And not to belabor this, but, and just for folks who are watching and who are concerned about,
Excuse me.
bless you,
Thank you.
tabulating machines being, possibly
Not
corrupted
here.
and invaded. These are not Wi-Fi connected or anything
Nothing
like
is
that.
Wi-Fi connected, it's not connected to the internet, and they have to go through a rigorous approval process before the state accepts them. That's apparently why the other company hasn't gotten their conditional approval.
Okay. I just thought it was important for people to hear that, anyone who might be listening, because it's a big topic of
I know.
discussion.
Yep, you're right.
And just curious, what happens to the old machines? Do we junk them?
I have heard that the company will buy them back for $100 to use those parts.
Oh, yeah. Whatever parts they can.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so the poll books. We've gone back and forth whether I'm putting it in my budget or whether
ARPA funds.
ARPA funds. So just so you know, I did go before the budget committee last week, and they wanted me to reach out, which I did, to find out if it's a reimbursement, but it's not. So the poll books are $12,000. What will happen is the company will bill the state for $7,000 and bill the town of Kingston for $5,000. So it's only $5,150.
If you were to budget it, that's the.
Or if we were to take it out of ARPA funds, it would be $5,150, I believe it is. So.
Is there a time frame that you have to give them a
So,
yay or nay?
in order to get them for the March election, we have to do it soon. So like for the voting works, I have to have the contract signed by Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Could we pause on the decision on that until we open this?
Oh, well, let me put it this way, even if you, well, hear me out. Even opening this one bid they received for the front stairs, you still have to vet the company. Someone has to, we can't make a decision. Oh, you want to know what the price is?
Yes.
To have an idea, okay.
Because if the price is well under what we've got left in the balance on the ARPA, and then we're looking for $5,000 to fill the need for that, the decision for me then is easier.
Well,
But
I'd vote for the 5,000 from ARPA anyways, because I'm betting that that's going to be more than what's left in ARPA, and we're going to have to put in town money or money from the infrastructure anyways. I'd just as soon secure the other piece of the voting apparatus, if you will, so that we have a full complement of what we need in March to process the election. That tabulator will be, the poll books will be an integral part of having the whole system together. So for $5,100, I say take it out of ARPA.
I think, we keep saying we were gonna wait until we got the bid.
I know, I agree.
So I think we should open the bid, and then we can vote on it. And you're probably right, Ellie, it's probably gonna be well over what we have left, and we're gonna have to take that money anyway, and the answer's probably gonna be yes. But let's do what we said we were gonna do and open the bids, and then, because if it's 200K, the answer's easy. If it's 100,000, the answer is easy.
And whether or not we accept this bid may be easy.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So the one last thing is well, I say I, but the town of Kingston is supposed to have a continuity of operations plan for the election, which is this document right here, which is all these pages. And it says that the governing body, working with the moderator and the town clerk, should do this, but I assume I'm doing this?
Yeah, and we appreciate the fact that you are.
I'll get it done.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. All right, bids for town hall stairs.
okay, so can we just table that discussion and come right back
Yeah,
to
we
it?
have no motion on the floor. There is no motion, so we're good. I'll let you open that up.
Okay.
We only received one bid for the town hall stairs. Unfortunately.
Does that mean we're going with that bid
Not
before you even open
necessarily,
it?
No, we have to open it. We have to, but my guess is we may want to go out for other bids or a more concise bidding package.
All right, so the one bid we received by the deadline for the repair of the front stairs came in on the last day, Susan, right? At about?
1 minute before noon.
Very, very close to the deadline. And you'll be happy to know, at least from a dollars and cents, it says that we propose to furnish labor and materials in accordance with the attached specifications for the sum of $130,440. So $130,440. So, and you know, we aren't in a position to look at this and evaluate it tonight. At this point, I sort of hate to go out for more bids because we don't know what we're going to get, and we're running short on time to commit to those ARPA funds and get them obligated. So I'm going to recommend, and I'm happy to do it by motion, that we provide this bid package to the architect that drafted the bid spec for us, have them review it, and make a recommendation to us on whether or not this meets the spec and meets the terms.
Where is it? Who is it from?
I'm sorry, I was jumping right to the...
Yeah, the bottom line.
Okay. Triple Construction, LLC.
Out of where?
Well, I'm looking for that. Do you think it would be right here?
Well, not on this
No,
envelope.
not on that envelope.
They dropped it off, right? Merrimack, Mass. That's not too far from us anyways. It's all right, you just looked it up, it's gotta be the same.
That's fine. I just thought that if it was,
It's nowhere in.
it's not readily visible, that's for sure.
Okay.
I'm sure it's in here somewhere. No, the letterhead does not have it.
They actually have a bunch of different locations. One's out of Hudson, New Hampshire.
It's out of Hudson, they have
One's out of
several
Hudson,
locations,
Merrimack, Mass, Hudson, New Hampshire.
which may be why they don't have an address on it. They must have contact information somewhere in there. Okay,
So then, that's what I think we should do, is have it reviewed and get a recommendation from, is it SMP? SMP.
What we submitted though too, also it has to go to the DPW director. It needs to be submitted to him for review. So I would recommend that that happens as well as the architect who created the drawings.
Then I'll make a motion that we have it reviewed by both SMP architects and by the DPW director, and with a recommendation back to us.
hopefully by November 1st.
Well, yeah, hopefully,
We have to, I mean,
right.
yeah, I mean,
It shouldn't take very long. No. I believe it's just one.
just one.
Just one could go there.
Could I have a second on the motion, though?
Second.
Okay. So what you say, oh, we'll have them make copies.
No, that's all, I was trying to avoid that.
You must not have asked for multiple copies like we normally do. That's all right. Okay, further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and go to Susan. Motion carries. So what's the balance in the ARPA funds?
33 something last I knew, balance of unobligated.
So what was that, 130 what?
It's 500, 130,000.5, rounded up.
The amount not reserved was 133,500, but you have a purchase order for the shakes to shingles, which was the installation, and that went up $2,000. It went up, yeah, $2,000.
So we don't
So we have
it.
130, pretty much.
But we don't have the electricity for the plane jet either, or the geotechnical, like we don't have those we have estimated costs, but we don't have actual, right?
Correct.
Or the phase 2 of the architect, so.
That is the quote.
Yeah,
So there's a difference between what's not reserved and what hasn't been spent. What hasn't been spent is $274,000.
But what hasn't been allocated was 133. So the answer is, we need to budget for the $5,000.
So we need to have quotes for $133,000, not quotes, invoices,
Right,
by
the end of
the
December.
end of this year.
Right, yep.
Paula, in order to obligate, don't we just need to be under contract?
Or
Or an invoice, yep.
Right,
Okay, but a contract would suffice as well.
a signed
It just
contract.
can't be just a quote, it has to
No,
be
no,
a
no.
contract or an invoice.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it has to be obligated. Yep. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So, we don't have enough money to do the poll books in the ARPA funds. So, okay, yep, no problem. All right.
let's, I
What?
think
You can still
we can
choose
still
to.
do it, right? Because it looks like, shakes to shingles was higher. It looks like we're probably gonna end up using infrastructure funds or something anyway for some of this. We might have to get all of this done. I'm just saying, there's a couple ways to look at this.
First come, first served. We haven't done the electrical. I don't know why we didn't do it in the fall when we were gonna do it.
Right.
So it may have, as you say, that may have to go till the spring, obviously.
Right.
And if we go with the money for the tabulators, and it comes time to do his, and it's short $4,000 out of that. We can,
Yep.
We are also way under budget for the records force, like by 42,000.
under the hoop.
Record, the digital, when they scanned all our stuff.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, we had estimated 125,000, we spent 82,000.
Then we have the $5,100.
But isn't that reflected in the available balance? Even though it came in cheaper, shouldn't that be reflected in the available balance?
Right, we have 274,000 that we have not spent.
Right.
But we only have 133 that has not been allocated. Some of the expenses haven't been paid yet, like the architecture and all that stuff.
We've committed those other $82,000 in funds.
Yep.
So that's what makes it hard about the $5,000.
Right.
But what
I understand all of that. What I'm saying is, as Chuck was saying, there's, a bunch of ways that we can look at this, because Phil's gonna get all we're doing is buying the parts for the electric, for the plane, so as soon as he gets that material list, we can get more of an actual cost for that. Because the plan was to have his guys do the work, so we weren't gonna contract the work.
Doing the trenching and all that stuff.
Right, so it was really just parts.
Well, I don't mean to be awkward, but he's done next Monday.
Right, and the conversation I had with him this afternoon was he's gonna get the parts list, because he realized he overlooked it on the ARPA. So he's gonna have that done.
What I'm saying is that we're gonna have an extra $42,000.
That's what I thought you said.
How are we gonna have an extra $42,000?
Because
we estimated that records force for digitizing our town records was gonna be 125,000. They are done doing our scanning. Now all the 300, I think it's 300 a month, right, Susan?
Something like that.
Something like that. A month comes out of the budget. So we have, nothing else comes out of ARPA for that. So we have 42,000
unallocated funds that didn't get
left.
expended.
So I'm looking at the spreadsheet, and it says estimated cost for records force, $125,000.
Yep.
Actual expenditure, available balance. So is your available balance, are you taking into account the actual expenditure?
Yes.
So then your available balance line is minusing the actual expenditure. So where is this $42,000 hanging
Because
out
you have to take the estimated minus the actual, it starts with the 674 that we got.
Yeah.
Minus 125.
That's for estimated.
Plus 82. It is a running total. That's where you get the 592. So 492,000 is the difference between what we estimated and what we actually spent on that expense.
So, I don't understand, no, Ellie, let's just talk through this, please. So the available balance at 274 does not take into account
Leftovers.
all of these extra savings on the right-hand side.
No, those will get subtracted off or added on.
They're not, why are they not reflected in the available balance? I don't
The
understand
available,
this spreadsheet.
because it's what we had to start with, 674, I'm rounding, 674,000. Then we've allocated and set aside $541,000 altogether for all our different projects. We've actually spent $400,000. Like, I actually paid it out, it's gone. The rest hasn't been paid out yet, but it was still promised for whatever project. So for each project, there's overages or under paying. Or it was
your
even.
column that says available balance is not accurate.
Yes, it
Because
is.
it says 274.
That is the cash that's left.
Okay. Okay. This does not make any sense to me. We says available balance that should be subtracting all of the actual expenditures from the 674. The difference in the cost is just a difference in the cost. How is that factoring in? When you do the math, and I just do it briefly down here, I don't, so what you're saying there, then there's 42, there's like $75,000 that's extra.
Yes, potentially, if we don't spend all of that, or if those things, like, let's see, what's the 20,000? The Unitil LED lighting upgrade, we haven't actually got invoices for that. So that hasn't been paid out. So that is still showing that there's additional 20,000 that we can spend, or we have to spend and pay out for that. Does that make sense? We estimated 20,000 for that. I haven't gotten invoices, that I've been back and forth with them. Regardless, I haven't actually paid that 20,000 out. So we've already promised 20,000 for that project, but nothing has been paid out. So what is available, it's a running cash balance of the 600 that we originally got. We still owe 20,000 on that, potentially. Just like on the records force, we estimate 125,000, we paid 82, we have 42,000 from that project left that has not been paid out and won't be paid out.
Or allocated.
Or allocated from that one project.
Then why isn't that extra money shown in the amount not reserved?
Because it is reserved.
Right now it's
But
still.
it's not. You just said for the $42,000 for records force, we paid $42,000 less than we thought. Wouldn't that be reflected in the amount not reserved?
No,
it's
because
available money.
what was approved was 125,000. That was the purchase order.
I understand.
So that's how this report goes.
The board has not moved that money yet.
Right.
That's what hasn't happened.
So what I'm saying is we have extra money that
Then it should be reflected that we have extra money. Because we're working on the premise that we only have $133,000. But what we're saying is we have $175,000.
That's correct.
Then we should be working on that number, not the 133.
But you can't,
Why?
because some of the projects haven't been completed
But
yet.
that one has. But that one has been completed, right? You've already
Yes,
built.
yes.
You've already built.
Yes.
So
Right,
then
and that's-
why is that number not reflected in the amount that's still available?
It is, it's down at the bottom.
Where?
I have a whole column that
All
says
right, all right, ladies,
differences.
enough,
This is.
enough.
Well, let her figure it out and then come back to us with it.
okay, all
Rather
right,
than trying to
okay.
discuss it with the select.
Just update the forms.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's hard to make a decision with inaccurate information.
Okay, is it my understanding then that we do have enough to cover the poll books?
That's what it looks like,
Sounds
yeah.
like we have
Yes.
more than.
It sounds like we have more than enough.
Based on that information, I'll make a motion that we authorize whatever that dollar balance was. 5150.
For the poll book.
5,150.
Okay.
For purchase for the balance on the poll books.
Yep.
To come from the ARPA funds.
Yeah, moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we should look at where else we could use some of that other money,
Well,
depending on what the
Certify
contract.
first. Let's make sure we got it
Right.
before-
Which is why we need an accurate number so that we can then talk about
Right,
how to obligate the rest
an
of the money.
updated number from that report, because that's... Okay, item next, curbside recycling discussion. We have a letter from Elsa, who is asking us to consider, let me read that to you. I am writing you as chairman of the Waste Management and Recycling Committee of Kingston to request that you make a decision on whether to continue curbside recycling or support our movement to a town collection site. We discussed needing to negotiate with the state over buying our present collection site land from them. as the state is getting anxious to move on selling various parcels they own, now would be a good time to act. There are grants we can apply for to help us purchase a used baler, $17,000, to bale up our cardboard and aluminum. We have done a lot to educate those interested enough to come out of all the places and ways we know to recycle goods. Please support our work by deciding not to continue curbside pickup, or these other next steps become moot. Discussion.
I guess I don't have a problem doing away with curbside pickup. I don't think we, as much as I hate to even say this, think we've talked about it enough yet. We've talked about it amongst ourselves, but I don't know if officially, it's been presented as, a long-term project and what down the future would be if we don't get the, if we don't get the place to have the recycling, where would we put it? We've got other places to put it. I don't have a problem with it. I think that probably more of a formal presentation should be made to the pros and cons, and I don't know. To arbitrarily tonight do that doesn't.
Well, based on the presentation by the DPW director at our last meeting, it was pretty clear to me that continuing with curbside recycling was not cost effective for the town, and that we're obligated to do it through the remainder of our contract with the current waste hauler, which goes until 31st of December 2027. But beyond that, it sounded to me as if continuing doing that, although it goes completely against everything that that I believe in with regard to resource recovery and everything, from based on what happens to the stuff and based on markets and everything, at least as of today, to me, it didn't seem to make sense continuing with it. So.
I see this letter as two parts. I don't understand why our decision to recycle or not recycle has anything to do with buying that property, because we use that property. We use the property prior to the recycling. I think when it comes to recycling, I think all of us want to throw, less bottles in the ocean, and it's a great thing. But Kingston, I think right now, is so far back on that recycling thing that, it's costing us money to run that center down there. It costs the town money.
And it's costing us money to pick up the recycling trash.
Correct, but
it costs us more than the trash.
Correct. So, it's almost like it's going to be a crapshoot whether that's going to work. I'm afraid with the town, because especially with the younger generation, it's a lot easier to take it to the end of the driveway than to load it in your car and drive down there, and then certain things you get charged for to get rid of. So one way or the other, you're going to be paying for disposal of these items, where they've been preached to us that if we just throw it in a trash bag, they're going to take it and it's going to be gone. So I think buying the property and continue the recycling are really two things. I kind of feel like the way that I read that letter is we need to make a decision because we have an opportunity to buy the land.
Right. Well, the land, they approached us initially. They were looking to lease it. They weren't sure what was going on. We responded that we were interested in buying, but nothing's come back. Am I correct, Susan?
No, I haven't heard anything.
Right, I am correct. We haven't heard back from them. Yeah. So we don't know. That could take forever. We do have the fairgrounds. It's not like we don't have any other land in town. That's the most convenient right where it is, because it's visible and people already know about it. But it's still going to take an investment of time and money to get people to recycle on any level, quite frankly. Never mind be used to not putting it at the end of the driveway. So either way, and we're going to need more people on the solid waste committee. In fact, I received a couple of resignations tonight. One effective October 30th from Mark Goddard, and January 1st resignation from Chuck Margosian, who for personal reasons are not able to continue. Chuck will stay on until January 1st, but Mark is done next week. So. So we definitely need to bring people on board and revitalize that committee. Originally, there was, you know, in 2020, there was maybe half a dozen, 8, 10 people involved, and now it's a couple. I mean, Laurie is the liaison, Elsa, and that's it, pretty much. Oh, Dawn, this other gal, Dawn, right? Am I correct? Yeah.
Yep.
So we need.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, everybody has really good points. We've been kind of used to just putting it in our thing for the end of the road to pick up, right? You don't really have to think about it. But the cost, we'll never get over, we will never get out from under the cost of curbside recycling. It's about $250,000 a year. And, you know, the plan is that if we choose not to do that at the contract end, we would only take things at the center that have value. So it's not like we would take everything that was put in your thing. We wouldn't take plastic. We would take things that we could sell.
It's still going to take time to build it up, and I think we all should recognize that.
Absolutely.
I mean, establishing a collection center will not happen overnight. No. It's going to take several years.
And that's why the sooner we make a decision, one way or the other, because we can't go for an RFP.
Or RFQ, depending
on what we want to call it.
Yeah.
Whether if it's just for trash or if it's trash and recycling, right? That's a different, a different process. It takes a longer lead time, so that's one thing.
Yep.
If we can purchase the land, then there's definite improvements that we can make to it. We don't want to invest a lot of capital into that if we don't own the land. And just educating folks that, you know, in 3 years, you throw it in your trash or you bring it to the collection center.
Yeah, well.
And even though, yes, Peter, it is costing money right now, it's negligible compared to the $250,000 it's costing the town for recycling.
Yeah, you mean the center's still, yeah, the center's costing us money now, and it might be it may not be profitable for a few more years.
Right.
So there's no question of that. We have to build that into the budget anyways. And RFP, RFQ, take your choice. You can still do initial one just for trash pickup and still get that out in the spring and go from there. I know Mark and Chuck both have done a lot of research on it. I'm sure they'd be willing to come and speak to the board, get some more details, a little more in-depth. They're very concerned about the direction New Hampshire's going in and where we're going to put our waste, because there are no new landfills opening up. And waste disposal is going to be more of a problem in 5 years than it is today. So, but we can talk about that another time. We can also open it up to discussion or have a hearing time as another meeting so that people can come and talk to us about it. We don't have to, we have to make a decision soon. I do believe that, because until we make that decision, we can't go with an RFP, RFQ.
Right. We can't, all of the other decisions, we don't
fall
want to
into
invest in a baler for our own cardboard unless it's really to our benefit.
But even still, you still could go out to a bid on the solid waste without the recycling yet. We still have to. But there's some serious money involved in getting equipment, and if we don't own the land, that storing it and protecting it is another issue. So there's a lot more money involved in how much we're willing to invest to build up the program. So do we want to have a public forum on it? Do we want to? I mean, we need volunteers, because you can't do it. But you're a liaison. You're not even technically a member of the committee. You
But
get Elsa.
I'm there every 2 weeks. I volunteer.
I know that.
I'm definitely a volunteer.
I understand that, but you really only have 2 community members, and that's Dawn and Elsa, right? So that's not enough to make this work, not by any stretch of the imagination.
As Pete said, there's 2 different decisions. One is curbside pickup.
Yep.
Whether we want to do it or we don't want to do
Yep.
it, number one. If we decide that we don't want curbside pickup and just going to put it in the trash, as most of the people in my development do anyway.
Right.
And then work on the fact that we will have a recycling center. I mean, I think once we've made the decision, and I think it's right that if we're gonna make it, we probably gotta get some public input to see what the reaction is gonna be, rather than 5 of us decide here that, for money purposes, that we're gonna not pick up your, you know, your cardboard or your stuff. So having it, you know, if it's a public hearing necessarily, or just.
Or a forum, something that where the public comes in to talk to us.
Well, in general, just the curbside pickup, not.
Pros and
We can
cons.
discuss the, you know, the alternative if there, but just the fact is that.
So do we want to do that like before the new year? What time frame are we talking about?
You're almost into December now.
I mean, when we can get it, you know, when we can get it on the agenda time-wise. I mean, a few things we have going, we talk about it in December. I don't know what the.
So you're just, I'm just trying to understand because we already had the presentation, so it's more about a discussion and getting input from the community if they want to do away with curbside recycling.
You brought one for you and nobody else? Jeez.
I don't know, Richard.
So he's got a point.
He's wearing shorts and a t-shirt, like that's with the rest of us.
Anyway, I think
So
that was more
Just like
public
input if they
input.
want to,
You
okay.
know, I mean, if
All right.
50 people show up and said we absolutely don't, we want to continue with the
Right.
the recycling.
And then we could get some volunteers and get going.
And that may all be that at the recycling center, rather than the recycling. If they all say, no, I want it picked up, I'm not worried about the extra money, we get a feeling. You know, it could be 10 people, it could be 50 people.
Okay.
Do you want to add that to an agenda? Probably be the first one in December at this point.
Yeah. Let's do the first one in December. What's the date on that? December 2nd.
You're gonna call it a public forum?
Yeah.
And it'll be part of our meeting on the 2nd
Yeah.
of December?
We can start at 6 o'clock if that's okay.
Sure.
And
Use that first half hour.
half hour, an hour if we need, if we have that kind of a
Well, if we need
turnout.
it, yeah.
If we need it, but plan on half an hour for sure. And let people come and express their opinion on it. We'll go from there.
We should,
Because, I mean, I'm in favor of getting rid of curbside. I definitely am in promoting the center. I would like us to do that. But I'm one, and I don't really have that much to recycle. I mean, how many wine bottles do you think I have every week?
A lot, no.
No, oh, stop it. Okay,
it's probably a discussion we don't wanna have.
not in public
No,
session,
no.
no. Shame on you, you drink more wine than I do, I think.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe not, but we'll see. Okay, so we'll schedule the December 2nd, let's get some publicity out on it, and we'll go from there. Next item is the food pantry relocation discussion.
So I think it was the last meeting, I just brought up the issue of confidentiality with having human services in there with a client and somebody sitting outside waiting. There's a problem. And so we just were discussing relocating it, and that was tabled, so I would just like to open that back up for discussion.
Well, I'll jump right in. I did take the time to call Marissa and ask her, is there a serious problem? Do we have storage, even the confidentiality? She said, we don't have the kind of volume yet to merit moving the pantry around out in here. She says she has pantry days when she brings foodstuffs out of the pantry onto the tables for people to take. We're going into the holidays. They're going to have a whole different distribution center service through both Thanksgiving and Christmas. She did not feel it was a real issue with the confidentiality. We don't have a high volume. That was her opinion. So to me, it doesn't make sense to try to build shelving or anything else in here at this time. And as we go through the renovations of the town hall, we may want to allocate some space at that point, if available, to do something then. But I don't know that, I would not be in favor at this time to move it out in here?
When she's in dealing with a client or whatever you come, a person,
Client.
who would manage and maintain that closet for more people coming in when she's dealing with somebody else? Who
I've
would
done a
come?
volunteer, a volunteer.
You'd have to have another volunteer. Okay.
So, you brought us sort of a different discussion the last time, and I'm just wondering how we've got these different.
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. When I talked to Marissa, we had discussed it and we walked around and we looked, because whether it's one person or 100, confidentiality is confidentiality. So, I can't speak to any other conversations.
Then the thing to do is ask Marissa at the next meeting, a department head meeting, because I did call and ask, because I couldn't see, constructing anything, and you have people coming in, but it's not like it's a huge volume.
Well,
I
think talking with Marissa then is
the appropriate way to go.
Probably a good thing to do.
Yes. Tom, hearing what we're talking about with expansion for the food pantry, for somewhere up here, if it were to happen, do you have any kind of a vision as to what we might be able to do? Not that you've thought about it, but.
I think that's a tough question. Yeah, you don't have a microphone, right?
So, yeah, I mean, just, I don't think this room would be a solution. That's my own personal belief. There's the set of steps down there that, to the left as you're coming in, is that ample space for it. Where the cabinets are now, they have some food there. There might be alternatives, or even moving the seats from, so if someone's coming to see, those seats might not be the best place for those seats. I think there's different alternatives before we start constructing rooms.
Okay, well, let's take a look at it, but we need to talk to Marissa
Because
first.
it is true, if you sit there and someone's in that office, yes, you can hear.
Yes, and we need to.
So there just might be a different way to approach it other than.
Or insulating that office a little more, because we also need to insulate Paula's office, because from downstairs, there's one of the rooms down there can hear, they can hear voices.
Because confidentiality is a thing.
It's a concern,
It's a
absolutely.
concern, but, there might be a different approach.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at it.
I don't have any answers.
Okay.
Quick question on those stairs that you were talking about, coming in the door on the left-hand side. Are those like discontinued? When you go down those stairs, where do they go?
If you're walking in the left hand, no, that's discontinued. There was a set of steps there.
Correct.
And then we needed the.
When the lift went in, the stairs went out.
Okay.
So now
there's
you
just
have.
that little alcove
It's
right
probably only 3.5, 4 feet wide by, 6 or 7 feet that could be used for some shelving and some foodstuffs. And that's what that cabinet is. There's green beans and whatnot in it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. I guess it's going to be continued.
Yeah.
Okay. New business, HDC updated policy and application form.
In your packets.
Yep.
So I'll speak to this real quick. So it was an application only, there was not a policy. So what we did at the HDC is we created the policy taking information out of the application and putting it into a policy, and then the only things that changed were they used to require 4 weeks to get the application. Now it's down to 2 because the time frame made it so sometimes you would have to wait 2 months just to get your, right, so we got it down to 2. It was just a lot of reformatting and kind of rewording stuff. And then the request that currently the way it works is if you want to do a certificate of approval, you have to go online, download the form, print it out, and do all of this stuff. So they would like exactly what we have, just kept at the permitting office too. So if somebody comes in and asks to do a certificate of approval, they're just handed the packet and then they deal with HDC like they do now. It's just, it's one less step for somebody to have to download it off of the internet, which can be really cumbersome. And then it was just some clarifying back and forth between the chair, how the chair interacts with the town planner to ensure that any use in the HDC is allowable. To stress as much as we could that getting a certificate of approval does not negate the need for a building permit, because a lot of folks would come here for a certificate of approval and think they were done and they would never go get the building permit. So there's a lot of coordination now that occurs between Pedro and Susan Prescott, the chair. And so it was just kind of codifying that a little bit. And yeah, so that's it. So the HDC approved what you have in front of you.
But when it says Pedro approved, what is it talking about?
I do. Well, on that note, and back to your recommendation about getting the packets, we have built in that function within the new cloud permitting. And Susan Prescott and as well as Virginia have administrative right so that they can request any information they can.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. So that the residents and applicant can request that information and they can go through the process online and don't miss a step. And also I get to be informed. That way I can see if there is something that is required of a permit. We have already about 6 projects. 5 of them has already been approved by Susan online. And there is one particular on 187 Main Street that she is involved, and that was the good thing about the software, that it creates the parameters to prevent any kind of jumping a step that should be part of the process. So I just wanted to make the public aware that the online system is there so that it can be fully utilized by the resident. They can be very informed on every step of the project. Most of the compliment that we are getting thus far is the fact that they are getting emails every time that application is being touched and by whom is being touched, and if there is any request, they also get that information. They are also able to interact with the reviewer within the application, and direct messages have been very well utilized by residents and applicants on the new software that is in place for the town. So I just wanted to make that interjection on that. You're welcome.
Thank you, Pedro.
Yes. Yep.
We'll make a motion to, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the recommended HGT Certificate of Approval and Zoning Determination Progress as presented, policy number 1201, adopted 21st October 2024, and also recommended by our building department.
In a second?
Second. Whoop.
Take your choice.
Take your choices.
Chuck or Glenn, pick one. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, credit card processing, cloud permit status, credit company. Okay. Discussion.
I know Paula had started working on it, maybe she's got things to bring. In the meantime, I just did some research, so that's what you have in front of you. I just, we are in a crunch because we have no way to pay online. Our cloud permit is live. They can't pay for it, they have to come in or try to call.
Yeah,
So-
well, unfortunately, our cloud permit place told us that we could link with what we have, and we didn't. We were not able to. So it's not like,
They sent us a list in April that our company was not on, so,
go ahead.
yeah.
They specifically told Pedro and I on the phone that Heartland was going to be part of it. So Interware, Heartland is really the source of our credit card processing. Interware just provides it. So when we signed up, we were under the assumption that it was going to be able to be integrated. Once we signed up and we found out that it can't, we immediately started looking into new companies. They sent us another list.
They being the cloud permit place?
Cloud permit,
Yes.
sorry. And they said, part of the list was who they're currently working with, and part of the list is who they're going to be working with.
Yeah.
And so I immediately started, once we found out that there was a problem, looking for new companies. I went out to my finance group and asked other towns who they use for credit card processing, because I don't want to just pick a random company. I want to make sure that other towns are using them and that they are also able to integrate with our other programs that we currently use in the town if the time comes that we would have to cancel Interware. And so I was able, there were 2 that got highly recommended, and I got one quote. The other one never contacted me back. And this one quote that I got is actually lower fees than what we're paying now. And 6 other surrounding towns use them.
And the name of the company is?
Paymentus.
I have a question, because I didn't have a chance to talk to you. When we do Interware now, do they bill the town and then we add the fee on to the interaction, or is it billed directly? Because I had one company that said they can't do that, and another company said they could pass along the fee to the customer.
No, we add, so the customer, if the fee is 100,
it's the 3%.
It's 3%.
So we're charging the customer
the extra 3% right away.
Are we billed for that and then we recoup it that
Nope.
way? It goes straight to them?
Yep.
Because I had one that will do that, and Chase, I think, said they can't because they're federally
Yes,
sanctioned
and
they
this
can't
company
do
will
that.
still do that.
Okay.
This company, I think we pay 3-something%. This one is 2.6% that they charge.
And we actually, when I find out about the situation about the integration, I contacted Matt de Blasio at Cloud Permitting, and one of the things that was brought up was the fact that when we talked, we did have this conversation, and Pablo was part of it. And they said, well, it's just that the modules that they have to integrate, it's not that we cannot do it. It's just that they're going to take between 12 and 16 months to do it.
We can't
so
wait.
we cannot wait that
Please
much
no.
to integrate it. And I said, well, we should have known that from the get-go, because we want to provide the full service that we can through this software. Right. We don't want to create the blocks or create hardship to an extent of making people come to the town. After, what we want is for them to be able to do this in a manner that they can resolve any problems at any time within their daily whereabouts.
So how long would it take us to get connected?
So Paymentus said that they could, as soon as we got the okay, they'd give me the actual contract and stuff. And then
Cloud Permit can do it immediately as soon as we have a contract.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
So we should go with, your recommendations to go with Paymentus?
that is the one I am most comfortable with, because I know other towns use it, and I know that it would integrate with our other programs.
Okay.
Meaning Avatar and the stuff the town clerk uses.
Okay. Yeah, so Tammy is on board with this one here.
I talked to her about it.
Okay.
She doesn't have plans on changing right now, but I said I had talked to her about it because I wanted to make sure that if in the future something were to happen, that if we had this, that this would also be able to go to the other programs we use.
And she may want to if the fees are less, right? That would be something for her to look into.
I mean, we just charge the customer
Correct,
the fee
correct.
anyway, so it doesn't hit our account.
Yep.
Are there monthly fees to the town, like on some of these that were on Susan's list? There was $10 a month or $15 a month?
We don't pay fees.
No fees,
Yeah, so it's gonna be similar to like PayPal's.
right.
It's similar to what we're using now,
Yeah.
Interware. It's just
And it's
can
called
integrate,
Paymentus.
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 Yep.
I've spelled it wrong twice now.
Like
on
a
my
Latin
sheet.
word.
It's right here on their list, so that's good. Sooner the better is all I can say. It's the only reason I started working on it, because we're in a real bind. And it's been several weeks in a bind,
Do you see
so.
any reason why we shouldn't do this?
I don't see any reason why we should go move forward, is what I should see.
Well, just checking.
Oh, yeah, well, I was gonna say, get a motion going, then we'll find out if there's any objection.
the contract for Paymentus? Yeah, well, I need the okay, and then
Yeah,
I'll
we have to
ask
sign
them
it.
to send.
We would have to sign it, yeah. Yep.
I'll move authorization to the finance director to get a contract for Paymentus for presentation to us ASAP.
Second, further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, a couple other things of board business before we get to public comment again. We've accepted the annual highway grant for the police department. We need to accept the Department of Safety grant number 25-097 in the amount of $4,372.50. And we agree to pay the town's portion of $1,457.50 and authorize the chair to sign all necessary documents at the Kingston NH Police Department. We'll give this to Susan for her records.
Yeah,
there.
need the numbers on that.
Yep, right down to her. Could I have a motion to that effect?
Do you have to sign that?
Yeah, give it Susan, yeah.
Thank you.
So moved.
In the second?
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. The title services contract, is that just a renewal? No, nothing else to do in that? That's in here, I believe.
That's
Yeah.
for Tammy's tax collection. She does it every year. There's no change from prior years.
Okay.
So that's from her, and it's in the orange to be signed, I believe.
It wouldn't be bad to have a motion to renew the contract for the title service company. It's in the orange one, I think, is it? What's the name of the company, Susan?
It should be there in the orange folder.
What's that?
Chuck, if you have it. Towards the back, maybe. There you go.
Newfound title service?
Shouldn't this go through the contract approval process? Where Paula signs off on it, so she's aware of the costs, and then we're signing off on it? It's a contract.
Perhaps, yeah.
It's a contract.
Oh, we're gonna do it right on this one. That'd be good.
It's for Tammy's title.
Title services contract renewal.
They do
Do you know
the,
anything about that?
every year it comes through.
Yeah, so can we
Yeah.
send it through the process?
Yeah.
Sure. Please, so everybody.
We'll give it to Paula. So,
Okay.
for further
Yeah.
ones, when you get them to her, then you can get them to us again.
Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. One item that's not on here that came to mind, normally, we've got a big election in November. It's, I don't know about your text phone, but I get them from both sides of the aisle, and I'm not sure how that happened, but be that as it may, it will be a huge turnout. Normally, we don't have a board meeting the night before because we're all geared up for the next day. And the following week, we have a Monday holiday on the 11th, which is Veterans Day. Do we want to postpone to the 12th? It gives us a chance to process the election. We have a long weekend with the 11th and meet on Tuesday, November 12th. Because we can't, I wouldn't want to go more than the 2 weeks, but
That would be a board meeting for probably HDC? Is that the second Tuesday?
It is.
So we're saying the 12th. Yeah,
So-
it's a HDC meeting.
So it would mean that either our rep to the HDC would have to miss that meeting or this meeting. What?
I would guess that you'd rather miss that meeting, this meeting.
I'm the rep, but yeah.
But they,
It's
would
not
they,
me, it's-
they skip meetings periodically, would they be missing that one maybe? Not necessarily.
No, not this one. If it had fallen, they've done it before to accommodate for things, but I don't think it was on their radar.
And in this case, it's more important than a liaison role because it's actually a voting, it's an ex officio spot on that board where that's a voting member and it's.
Like the budget
vote counts
committee.
toward quorum
Yes.
and like planning board.
Right,
and
okay.
Heritage Commission and budget committee.
All right, so those are the four, there are four, okay.
How about the Wednesday then? Can we move it to a Wednesday? Our meeting.
You'll miss me,
Oh, see, that's kind of a call then, right?
but that's okay. You can proceed without me.
Well, I'd say go with the 12th. I mean, maybe they could have a meeting a little bit earlier and then you just scoot on over. We leave our meeting at 6:30.
They have theirs at 7. In here, so now it's a logistic thing.
Ah, that's right.
They have their meeting here.
Well,
'Cause that's televised too.
we can hip check them, can't we? No, we tape, I don't know. It's a thought. I thought it would make it easier for us to, because that week, that election week is going to be tough. This
It
time.
is.
Well,
In the holiday.
And the holiday on top of it, right?
Building's closed on, I know we can open up the building, but the offices here are closed on Monday.
Right.
And some people may be away for the holiday.
Right.
Can we just make the 4th
I mean, we
early
could-
enough so that you're not gonna be here too late?
right, we could bite the bullet and just do it on the 4th and try to conduct our business quickly, if we can.
Okay.
Otherwise, we miss 2 weeks, and that's really not good.
Right, I totally agree, but I'm throwing it out because we normally don't meet on that Monday before the big election, not the town election, but
Because that's going to be a really long day.
it's gonna be a very long day. It's up to you guys. There's no motion, we move forward. You can
With
make it, nothing, you can,
I'm gonna make the
bringing
motion,
it
I'm
up
gonna
as-
make the motion that we skip that 4th, because that is gonna be a long day on Tuesday. And I mean, we always say we're gonna come in and leave early, but you know, that sometimes snowballs.
Right.
And then we have the next night's a late night. The next week's the Veterans Day. And if Lori can't miss that HDC meeting on Tuesday, the 12th, Glenn said he wouldn't mind missing that meeting on the 13th if need be.
So we
And
go
then we
with the
can, then we're
13th.
not skipping the 2-week period of time. I
okay,
think we can make this work. But I just think, you know, you're gonna have 2 nights back-to-back here with the election. So that's what I'm gonna recommend.
all right.
And if this, like, something urgent comes up, we can always call a meeting and.
Oh, yeah, but we don't have, hopefully there's no emergency, but we can't go too far, like, because you get the holidays, it just gets more complicated. So you're moving that we meet on Wednesday, November 13th?
I would move the 12th or the 13th, in whichever one works
Wait a
out best
minute.
for
I
our.
was just checking to see if it's a budget committee
I was
meeting.
gonna say that's a thing too, right?
And the 14th would be zoning board. You sure we can't hip check the HDC?
I think the 13th is a budget meeting.
Budget,
2 weeks.
budget I have on the 16th, if I've got the latest and greatest.
November 13th, Susan.
Oh, November, we're in November,
Yeah.
13th, right, sorry.
So that's not gonna work. You know, you can decide next Monday. You can take a look at the calendar and see what's going on. You check HDC, see if they can move it.
Yeah, I'll send a note to Susan and see. I don't even know if they have anything.
Right, because if they don't, then that would be a good night to
Yeah.
do it. You can move on it next Monday at the department head meeting, whether or not to change it or not, okay? All right. So next item, I told you about the letter of resignation for both Mark Goddard and Chuck Margosian. Mark's effective October 30th. And all it says in this letter is to inform the board that as of 30 October 24, I'm resigning my position as a member of the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee. And Chuck Margosian said, after 2 years of service as a member of the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee, I am respectfully submitting my letter of resignation from the committee to be effective 1 January 2025. And I regret their decisions, but they have personal reasons, and I have to respect that. But they've done a lot of good work for us for the last couple of years.
I'll make a motion to accept both of those resignations with regret from the board.
A second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
They both indicated that we'd be more than willing to come talk to us for more information if we wanted it, from their perspective on the work that they've done with the committee. And if circumstances change, I'm sure we can convince them to come back on, but I'm telling the people out in the audience, please, 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 we need some help. And if we were gonna move forward with transfers at collection center, we need more bodies that are willing and able. Excuse me.
And in addition to the motion with regrets, also thanks for their service.
Absolutely. They've done yeoman's job accordingly. Okay, approval of all the minutes that we've got. Oh, wait a minute. We also have a letter from the Gideon Lodge.
We also have public comment too, we missed.
Oop.
Oh, we did. Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's go to public comments. If anyone wants to go home, now's the time to do it. Any public comment? No? Okay, all right.
Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you for reminding me. Can't wait to get that cataract cleaned up. We do have a letter from the Gideon Lodge. They're disappointed in our decision. They may make other alternatives they think they had to deal with from years ago. They think we should have found the paperwork. It's not their fault that we didn't have it.
And it's actually irrelevant because that's a decision that the board at that time was not authorized to make, because this was a vote of the voters, and only the voters can change it.
There you go.
So,
Yep.
I'm just saying.
Did everybody get a copy of that?
Yes.
Yes, okay, I want to be sure that you had it.
Do we need to respond to the fact is that the decision that we made is the decision, or we just don't care one way, they let it go? I mean, obviously, if they want to pursue it, they can.
They can do whatever.
Yeah.
We made our decision,
Okay.
and so I feel comfortable standing with it. And if they take it any further, then we'll deal with it accordingly at that time. Okay. Approval of meeting minutes, October 7th and 9th.
So that's October 7 minutes were the public minutes.
And then there was also a non,
We had a non-public on the 7th and the 9th.
yeah, the non-publics
On both.
were not written by me, so I want to make sure that I captured them correctly.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of October 7, both public and non-public.
October 9th.
Well, I thought I would, since it was on a different day, I would do it separately.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
We're not here in the 7th. But you were in the non-public.
Thought you were here, Chuck.
It's not in the public minutes.
Maybe it got just.
Maybe I could have
Well, is it?
double check.
And Glenn had it checked off in the non-public.
That darn cold medicine gets you every time, Chuck.
I think you were here, to be honest with you. Okay, and you were here for both public and non-public on the 9th.
And you're cited in here as saying stuff, so. And
you're here tonight.
I think it's safe to say you were there.
He wasn't on the roll of Monday.
And a motion to approve the non-public minutes of, I wasn't. You weren't here. I wasn't there at that one, sorry. So I'm not gonna make that motion.
Laurie, give me the line.
October 9th.
Ninth.
Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of October 9th.
Second discussion, all in favor? Thanks.
And I'll abstain, Susan, because I was not there.
Gotcha.
So now we
Unless Chuck tells me I was there.
okay, we need non-public for several personnel matters.
I'll make a motion to enter non-public session under RSA 91A:3, Roman 2, small a, to discuss several items relating to personnel matters.
Yes, and the second. A roll call vote, Laurie?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Yes, Chuck?
Yes.
Yes.
Um,
David?